is going to be for Mrs. Oniton. Is it for 2 hours, 3 hours? Can you confirm with me?
It's going to be about 2 hours.
Okay, it's going to be about 2 hours. I hope I haven't cut into the time too much. And I really want you to commit to this time, focus, and be open to this learning. Some of these things you may already know. This is a time for you to see yourself as a point person within your school. You're all a head. You're an accounting officer for your school, right? So we know that there are unique circumstances in individual schools and or public schools as a whole. So we're not doing this thinking that you have what you don't have. But the truth of the matter is we know that there are certain processes that we need to follow. And the first being registration. So please, please, please make sure it's going to take anywhere from 5 to 7 minutes. Make sure that you are registering your school. It's very important that you do this on behalf of your school, because when we have the data on that, we're able to connect you to different resources. If UNICEF comes and says, okay, we want to do something in our Limosha, we want to figure out not only which schools to go to, we want to target programming for girls or for boys or for schools within this zone, we're able to do that. But the truth of the matter is, when we don't have that data, it makes it difficult, and it doesn't make the resource distribution as fast as it should. So it's not just important just to tick a box and just for doing sake. It's actually very, very important to be able to support you, at the back end of things. So the registration should take no more than 5 to 7 minutes, basic information about your current status of your school, about what you have, what you don't have, and all of that. The second portion of what we would expect, I know that the moderator will be taking you through this, is focused on the actual training. There's an online training for this entire process for reopening, right? So doing the training, making sure that you are that you have taken the assessment. You have to get an 80%. And I trust you as that you'll be able to do that. And don't fret if you don't get it the first time. You can try until you get that 80% to get the certificate, so you yourself know that you are certified as taking the course for reopening. Now, after taking the course for reopening, we're also asking that you also take the child protection and safeguarding course that we have partnered, collaborated with DSVRT. And I believe that there was heavy circulation on the public school end, and most of you, I believe, have already taken it. When I spoke to the coordinator for DSVRT, she was giving very promising numbers about our public school sector taking that course. So kudos to you all for taking that. If you have not taken it, please do take it, and encourage all of your teachers to also take the course. Remember, prevention is better than cure, and this time is the best time for us all to scale up and upskill ourselves in different ways. After the training, the third part would be submitting your reopening documents, which I know Mrs. Oniton will take you through as well during this session. So how to do that, I know she will do that. So welcome again, thank you. This is a first in a very long time, and I'm hoping that from this point on, we'll have more frequent interface with you. We're partners in progress. We'll be taking your feedback. I will be speaking to the ICT person to see how they can, get everyone's information, the registration details of those that are actually present and who have completed the course, so they can get a certificate for being here today as well, certificate of attendance. So you should be here from the beginning to the end to be able to get a certificate of attendance for today's training. So thank you all. I wish you a very happy deliberation, and thank you again. God bless you all.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, DG.
Thank you.
Thank you for the introduction. Thank you for encouraging us. And then we would go ahead Okay, I'm sure you can all see my screen right now. This represents the school registration portal, and you would be required to fill this, like the DG mentioned. It's a very simple process. It should take you just about 5 to 7 minutes, and you'll be able to complete the entire process. Once you're done with that, you once you click submit, you would receive an email with your school code and a link to the training portal. And when you receive the email as well, there's a link within the email that also leads you to where you will get some supporting documents like the federal government guidelines, the child protection policy, and your self-assessment. So the Google Drive would also, it's a Google Drive, so you would see it. It will also have a folder called the Reopening Toolkit. And the toolkit has sample tools and templates for you to create that would, support you in creating your plans. But I must mention that you must create your own plan. There is no template in there of a plan that you would write. No, it only has some sample schedules, but you would have to sit down and create your plans. Now, for all of those that have said that they have done the training, that training already provides you with 70% of what you need. In fact, almost 100%. If you listen and you really went through that training, you should be able to create your 4 plans. This training you're going through now does not replace the online training you need to go for. This is just to support you to understand what you're supposed to do. But if you have truly gone through the training and not just quickly glance through and guess through the assessment and try to just get 80%, you will understand what you need to do, because everything I'm going to talk about today was extracted from the online training. I also took the online training and used that to come up with what I'm going to teach you today. So it's not that what we're saying is outside what the online training is. Everything you need is in that training. Training, you will be equipped with everything you need to have to prepare the 4 plans. So that is one thing we need to know. Every single person that has completed that training should be able to sit down and write their 4 plans. But I'll still talk about it today. So the DG has been very good enough for her to and her team in Re-Oeqa to organize this for us so that we get an additional support in getting what we need to create our plans and proceed for clearance. So as part of step 1, we also requested that your staff must register at least 3. Is a similar process as the school registration. They register, they submit. And one thing you need to note is that the school must register first before the staff register, because the staff needs the school code to be able to register. If they don't impute the school code, they cannot register because the staff must register under the school. So once they do that, they go through the process, they also get their email and the link to get into the training. Like I mentioned earlier, there is a Google Drive you would see a link for in the email that you get that will contain a link that will take you to where you will get this document, which is the self-assessment document, which will help you to just self-assess your school to see whether you are meeting the requirements. The step 2 is the online training. And for a lot of people that have gone through this training, you're familiar with this. For those of us that have not, once you have registered, you would also get the link for the training and you just proceed to take the training. The training is not long, but if you are really listening to the training and taking notes, because at the end of the training, you're supposed to come up with the plans. I'm sure that, it might take you some time, but as you're going through the training, for those that have not gone through the training, listen, put down notes, because everything from that training is what you need to be able to develop the 4 plans that have been requested. So ensure you do that. And if you haven't, or if you Okay, so please go back and listen to the training. Yes, you will get some things from here, but the training itself equips you with everything you need to prepare your plans. Now, step 3 is the clearance, which is where a lot of people do not know what to do, or they haven't been able to prepare their plans. First thing is that the electronic copy of your certificates for the school and for the 3 management level staff or teachers, making a total of 4 certificates, will be uploaded. I will show us the live website. And then you're supposed to upload your 4 plans. Thereafter, once you submit, it means that you have scheduled an assessment visit from OEQA so that they can come and inspect your school. That is the entire 3 processes that I have discussed. I'm going to stop here before we go into the reopening plans and go into the Q&A section to look at some of the questions that we already have before I go into the plans, because I know that we all have, I've seen like 18 questions in the Q&A. I would address those questions, a few of them that relates to this first section, and then I would move ahead to the second section of talking about the plans.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Oniton, is it possible with the presentation for it to be larger when you go back in, like in a slideshow version?
I would try and see if that can work.
Okay, okay,
Yes.
thank you. Please go ahead.
So I think I answered the first question. Ojo Maria talks about why government schools need to register and get clearance. I think I have addressed that question when I started. All schools must register and get clearance. Whether government knows your school or they don't know your school, you still need to register. And I think the DG also talked a bit about why we need to register. So I think that is gone. I've registered for the course but couldn't access the course content. That's a tech issue. At the end of the training, I'm going to provide, or OEQA will provide further information about how you can bring your tech concerns forward so that that could be addressed. But I'm sure that it's something that you can address. I mean, you can access. If you get your code, if you've gotten your code, then you put in your code and you can access the training. But if you still have technical issues, we'll get back to you. So I'll leave that question. Can we have Facebook updates of trainings at OEQA Facebook page? I think that's for OEQA. I'm sure that they can be putting updates on the website. Okay. Some people have done the training and they've not seen the certificate. I will go online and show you one way to do that. And if you don't still get the certificate, then you would put your complaints forward and OEQA will work with you to achieve that. The link to join the YouTube channel. So this is streaming live on YouTube. Just go to the OEQA Lagos channel on YouTube and you would see, your colleagues will be able to see this. It's already, it took a while for it to come online, but now it's already streaming. So I'm sure they can see that now. So please, if they've not joined the channel, tell them to go back. It's already streaming now.
I'm sorry, I also saw a question where someone said there are over 40 teachers in my school. Are we all to do this registration? So I believe, Mrs. Zuni told that there's a registration for teachers and there's a registration for the school. So the registration for the school will be done by one point person. I believe it's the principal, head teacher, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so please, if you have questions, don't put it in the chat room. Use the Q&A section. So I'm answering questions in the Q&A section, not in the chat room, because a lot of messages are So some people are having, so these are all tech issues. Okay, I've answered this about YouTube. The link to the YouTube is already sorted out. For those that couldn't join the meeting, how do they make up for it? This video will be available following the end of this training. They're supposed to join live on YouTube if they couldn't enter here because we've reached the maximum of 500. But I'm sure that the recording would be available after today. Okay. You were only able to access the safeguarding policy online. I will show you where the link is, and I'm sure you'll be able to do that once we go to the live website. Okay. I think, okay, someone says, can registration be extended to allow more schools to register? This is exactly one of the things that we would have to ask DG, because truly the registration of schools have closed, and I'll leave that for DG to tell us the next steps, because school registration has actually closed.
So I would actually want for us to proceed with the training. I think it's great that you are able to, or were able to take some of the questions, but I want us to proceed with the training, and then we'll be able to take some of the questions later on so that you get that full content. This registration process has been on since August. It's been on since August, and although we have a lot of public schools that have registered, many have not, and there really is no reason for that. So we'll go back and we'll see how much time we think we should extend to our public schools. But like I said, we have right now about 16,000 schools registered, and private schools have taken this very serious. And we also, as a public facing sector, as one family, need to also take this process very seriously. And the registration is just the first part in getting that done, and it takes no more than 5 to 7 minutes. If you so wish, you should be able to actually get it done today, right? It's not a case where you have to fill out a form and bring it to allow side. No, you can do it from the comfort of your home using your smartphone. Okay, so let us not focus just on the loopholes that exist. Let's focus on the solutions that we have immediate access to. All right. So, Madam Moderator, if we could just jump right back into the training. Thank you.
I plan to go back. I just wanted to, because there are lots of questions, I wanted to kind of address the ones that related to the first section, so that I'm done with the second section, we can address the questions again. Please, I would like the OEQ IT back end to kind of work with me on the Q&A segment, so that once I've answered a question,
yeah, she actually should be the one moderating those questions. Fauzia, please.
Taking that out so that that the questions are reducing, and I can proceed to the second segment of the training.
Very well, ma'am.
All right, thank you. So please, the question that has to do, all questions that have to do with extending the training, can you just take that out so that that reduces the number? So on that note, we would go into the second segment of the training, which are the plans. This is the critical element of the process. This shows us how ready we are on paper to reopen. Now, many people say, or there's a common saying that if you plan to fail, or if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So the reason we're asking for plans first is that we want to know what you have planned for your school to ensure that every person in your school community is safe. And that is why we requested for the plans. It's not to stress you out. It's not to add workload on top of what you're have actually taken steps to make your school safe for everyone. So the plans are very critical, and it's something that would enable OEQA to assess your school. I saw a question in the Q&A segment that asked about what is the process? If we even finish these plans, what are we going to do? It is not automatic that OEQA will come to your school. There's a back-end process that goes on when you have submitted your 4 certificates and your 4 plans. The first thing that goes on is that your plans are evaluated. Your plans are scored. So what would happen is that OEQA will look at those plans that you submit and actually grade those plans, not like marking, but like, evaluating the plans to see your readiness. Now, when they check and they see that on paper you look like you are not ready, they're not going to come to your school. They're going to contact you and tell you that your plan is inadequate and you need to go back and rewrite that plan. So it's not about, oh, I've submitted the plan, tick, 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 thank God, bye-bye, that's the end. No, those plans are going to be looked at thoroughly. They're going to be graded, and that grading would help us to know whether we would send the next team, which I would explain shortly, to come to your school. So those that don't do well on the plans, that don't demonstrate on paper that they have done all that is required to ensure that their school is safe, they are requested to go back and redo those plans. Now, for those that have met the requirements and have scored well on those plans, they would then move to the next stage, which is getting the inspectors or the evaluators to come to their school to come and determine whether what they have on paper is what is on ground in reality. So we do know that some people are very good at writing. They've listened to the training, they've copied and pasted, they've made the plans look very good, and they have submitted. But that's not what is on ground. Sometimes it might be that, oh, when we wrote the plan, when it was time to implement, we couldn't really implement it the same way that we wrote it, but we are doing something else, but it's still in line with what we wrote in our plans. That is the reason for the physical visit. And when they come to visit, the evaluators are going to also, kind of grade our schools to see how well have we done. And if you don't meet up to a certain level of grading, then you would be giving your gap assessment for you to improve within a certain period. The evaluators coming are not coming to crucify you while you're in school. No, they're there to support you. They're there to mentor you. They're there to help you meet the requirement. So we did one mock evaluation, and one public school we went to said, oh, we only have a sick bay. We don't have space. We have this number of students, which is what we're all talking about, population. We cannot, there is no classroom. I mean, there are always excuses, but we were able to prefer a solution for the isolation bay, which I will talk about, which is a requirement. We were able to go around the school, look at the facility, and give a specific solution as to how to have the sick bay and the isolation bay within the school premises, where there was, the whole complaint about there's no space. So yes, the evaluators will come in, but they're also there to help, and they would help you to achieve the goal of ensuring that your school is safe. You also must be willing to be open. You must also be willing to learn, so that when they ask you to go and put things in place, you are going to be able to achieve that. So on that note, I will go back into the training and talk about the plans that we have to prepare. So for the reopening plans, there are 4 specific plans that we need to have. 4 specific plans: operational plan, health and safety plan, learning plan, and data and communications plan. the 4 plans that we need to have as schools. And those are the 4 plans that we're going to upload for clearance purposes. So let's go to the first plan, the operational plan. The operational plan is talking about how the school is going to operate the entire schools. Now, these 4 plans doesn't mean that your school is divided into 4. No, they are just specific segments. Every single one of them, all the plans work together holistically, but we just want to be able to see what you're doing at each segment. So each plan is actually very important, but they all work together. So the operational plan is how the school is operating. First, you want to look at the utilization. And like I mentioned, all of this was extracted from the training. For those that have taken the training, I'm sure you'll be familiar with some of these images and slides. So it's nothing outside what is in the training that you need to take online. If you go through that training, you would have gotten this information. What you need to now do is open a Word document, a Microsoft Word document, and tell us how you are doing this for your school. This is why every single plan cannot be the same. The plan for school 1 cannot be the same plan for school 2, even if your school is in the same compound. So we went to certain schools that had, certain locations that have 4 schools in one compound or one space. Every single plan of those schools cannot be the same, even though they are in the same space. So this has to be tailored to your school. It has to be for your school. It doesn't have to look like people are copying each other and writing the same thing, because every single school is different. Every single school has a different population. They have, classroom sizes might not be the same. Facilities might not be the same. So it has to look like this was done for your school because it is unique to your school. So the operational plan, you want to have your floor plan, your classrooms that are showing that you have 1.5 to 2 meters spacing between students. We also want to know the eventual number of students per room. I know this is where everybody's going to talk about the population of public schools. If your population is beyond what your class can take, that is when you need to start dividing yourself into what we call pods. So if you have your normal classroom is sitting 90 children, and based on your square meters and the 1.5 social distancing requirement, you realize that that class can only sit 30. It means that you need to divide your class into 3 pods. So that's pod A, pod B, pod C. And you need to then look at whether you're going to stagger the classes or decide whether the children are going to come at alternate times. But it is unique to your school and the class size and the social distancing space. You need to come up with those numbers yourself. It is not a generic thing. In fact, if you have different classes of different sizes, you need to be able to come up with the floor plan for those different classes and the students per class for those different classes. So that is why I said your floor plan and all your plans are unique to you. So your school, you need to have the floor plans of all of your classes, determine the students that can take that class based on the social distancing requirements. So it's not just the classroom that you need to look at. You also need to look at, for secondary schools, for instance, you need to look at the labs, you need to look at all of the spaces that will be used. Even for the staff room, you need to ensure that the social distancing requirement is maintained. Hallways, you also need to ensure that the hallway traffic plan is done. 1.5 meters spacing. You also need to train the children to understand that if it is closing time, you have to even probably stagger closing, because if all the children come out at the same time and everybody is choked interval for closing to say, let this floor close first or this class close first. They proceed out and you make sure they exit. Another class closes at 5 or 10 minutes after and they exit. Those are the kind of preparations you need to have, because you cannot you cannot allow all children to close, especially if you have a huge population. We're public schools, we know the population of our schools. So you have to even do more planning than the private schools. Some private schools just have 100 children. Some of them have implemented plans where children cannot even close until their parents come to pick them and they announce for the children to come out. So people are not coming out in droves. But because we know that a lot of our public school children go home on their own and they all close and go out, we need to plan the exit of our children from the hallways. Even while the school is going on, break times and all of that, we need to plan that. We need to ensure that our traffic is monitored. And then in the hallway, we need to insist that there has to be one-way traffic. So because if they're coming double ways and a child is not properly protected with a face mask or and they sneeze and they were not properly distanced, that is being exposed to each other. So even the hallways, you want to look at it, evaluate your traffic within the hallways to say, do they proceed in what direction? And then, have them trained on how to move by the staircase on the hallways, so that that is being sorted. Children are not roaming around. Even during break time, there is a specific traffic plan that allows them to know where to move and how to move. Okay? Sanitation stations. That is very important. One of the key things we need to decide, what we say, have enough sanitation stations for the children. But there are two things we need to consider as we talk about sanitation stations. Sanitation stations upon entry. So imagine that you have 1,000 students and they're all coming in at the same time, and you put just 2 sanitation stations at the entrance of your school. Already we know that there's a choke point at that entrance, because if all children are resuming, there is no way you can convince me that every single child wash their hands before they go in. If 1,000 students resume by 7:38 and they all have to wash their hands before they go in. So you need to look at the sanitation stations in relation to your population. And what you want to avoid at the point of entry is a choke point where everybody is waiting to wash their hands. People would stroll inside. We know our children, some of them will just stroll inside and go in. You might also want to have a situation where, in addition to washing their hands, you have enough hand sanitizers, because we know that these children, for them to be able to even wash their hands, you might want to have different segments to say, if you have primary school, for instance, you might want to say upper primary should use this side, lower primary should use, just to ensure that you remove the choke at the entrance, because while they are washing, they are all clogging together. We don't want that to happen. We want them to still maintain social distancing while they are trying to wash their hands to go into the school compound, or the school premises. So that is what we need to ensure, that our sanitation stations at the entry point is properly monitored, and there's enough soap there for them to use. They're not just washing with water, and that they're able to proceed and do that fast and on time, so that other children can proceed as well. Then you're talking about sanitation stations inside the school. There should be also sanitation stations at strategic points within the school, so that children can, when they feel like they have to do that, wash their hands, children can wash their hands. In private schools, for instance, they insist that all parents provide hand sanitizers for the children. But in public schools, not all of them might have it. So we This is separate from the toilet facility where they can wash their hands. We're saying they don't need to travel far before they get to a station where they can sanitize. That I'm sure that is clear. If you have any questions, just drop them in the chat, the Q&A, not the chat room, so that I would address it at the end. The next thing I'll be talking about is the isolation room. The designated isolation room must be in the school, but must not be very close to where teaching and learning is going on. We know that all of our schools were not built with the mind that COVID would happen or any pandemic would happen and schools would need to have isolation rooms. So most times, schools were not constructed with, an isolation room facility. So we have to create it. One of the examples that we gave was that you can look for an empty room or a place that can be used for the isolation room, or you convert your sick bay. If it is not very close, you can convert your sick bay to the isolation room and go and find another space to be the temporary sick bay until this pandemic goes away. So what am I saying? I can give you an instance. So we've seen a school that had a very good sick bay. Fortunately, even the sick bay was at the back end of the building, so it was outside where most of the children were. And the sick bay had a good facility to be used as an isolation room. So they asked us the question, where should we now put the sick bay? And we found that there was a space around the staff room or the one office that had a very good space. And we said, you know what? You can actually put a partitioning board and create a small space here. We don't say that, this is now the new sick bay or healing bay, as we call it. But we're saying a temporary sick bay where you can then put the bed and every other facility to be the temporary sick bay for the meantime, before the sick bay returns back into where you have designated as the isolation room. This was given as a solution because we actually went through the entire school and we realized that they were short of even classrooms. The number of students was alarming and the classrooms were not even enough. So yes, there was no space. We can't even tell children to leave the classroom to create an isolation room, no. So that was the temporary solution that we provided. There was a room that was big enough that we believe that could be partitioned so that the sick bay can be put there for the meantime while this pandemic goes away, because we all believe and hope that this goes away soon. So that is like a temporary situation that can happen. But the isolation room is a critical room that the school needs to have to meet up with the COVID-19 protocols. It is not, and we're not telling you to have an isolation center like what Lagos State built when we were in the peak of the pandemic. No, that's not what we're saying. It's a room, and I'm going to explain to us a bit later, some of the things that we would have in that room. So in addition to that, we're going to be having a lot of schedules. Why do we need schedules? We need schedules so that we can know that you're following the COVID-19 protocols. We need schedules for things like drop off and pick up schedules for student cohorts. We need schedules, we need your class list. So for instance, it is important for every single school to have a schedule of the students in each classroom. Now, when we say schedule, it's not just their names. We're talking about addresses, we're talking about phone numbers, we're talking about phone numbers of their parents, we're talking about emergency numbers, because if anything happens, we need to be able to do, Oeqa needs to be able to do contact tracing, Ministry of Health needs to be able to do contact tracing, and that phone doesn't work when I'm in the market. This is this. You need to have emergency numbers, even if it's 10 emergency numbers you have to collect. Please have that data. It is very critical because those schedules are important when the situation requires for contact tracing to happen and for information to be provided to parents or guardians. So we need to ensure that all schedules are in place. Schedules for cohorts as well, I call them pods. You also need to be able to tell us exactly how many students, how many of them are in pod A, how many of them are in pod B. It's important for that to happen. Okay, so it's important for us to be able to achieve that and to be able to ensure that we, if those schedules are requested for, we are able to produce the schedules. We also need to be able to, and this operational plan is linked to the health and safety plan, which is the next section we're going to be going through. And I wanted to be able to also mention one of the schedules that is important is for school bus, but I know that a lot of our schools might not be using the school bus. And this schedule is only important for us if you have a school bus facility. If they are coming with public transport, you don't need to disturb yourself with having anything that has to do with transportation. Now, in terms of one other thing that you need to have in terms of schedules or in terms of information is the visitors logbook they're coming in. What we need to do is ensure that you have the proper information for visitors as they come in. What is your visitors protocol? So the normal visitors logbook you have, you might need to add certain information if it is not complete. Because of contact tracing issues, you need to ensure you have full contact address. Ensure that the person at your gate is collecting the full information, because you know that most people, when they are writing, when you tell them to write their address, they'll just write Ikeja. They'll just write Mushi. They wouldn't write the full address. You need the full address, you need the phone number, you need to ensure that the logbook is properly filled and that you can reach those people in case there are any issues. So you need to be able to ensure that all of that is in place. Okay, so all of those schedules need to be done, and all of that need to be in our plan. You also need to have your plans of the NCDC phone numbers should be properly displayed, so that in case they need to have information, they're putting that. I'm sure we also have access to the medical facility. So there's a every single local government has a medical facility related to COVID-19. I believe OEQA will provide that information to us if we don't already have it, where if we have a suspected case, we immediately contact them to be able to respond to that. That information should be available in your school. You need to also show evidence. Now, one thing that your plan must do, and let me reiterate this, because as the OEQA evaluators are looking at your plans, one of the key things they're doing is looking for evidence. So it's not just for you to say, oh, we have PPE equipment in our school. That is not all. You need to be able to demonstrate that you already have it. So if you have purchased it, can you add a picture to the Word document that shows what you have purchased? If it is in the principal's office, take a picture, add it on the Word document. When you purchased it, take a picture of the receipt, add it to it. Because you know what? You are not there to explain to the person that is evaluating your plan. So if you truly have it, you need to provide evidence that will provided. Take a picture of the isolation bay to say, okay, these are the two different rooms and they're separate. Take a picture of where you've pasted the NCDC numbers and the medical facility numbers. Let that be there. Let the schedules of the students have it available. It might be online on your computer, do a screenshot. It might be a physical paper, take a picture, all of those schedules that you need to have, put it in the document. And some of those schedules, remember the portal I said I was going to show you online that has some of the sample schedules. You can go there, you will see some of the sample schedules in Excel that you can use. It has been provided. So all of the schedules, teaching schedules, mask break schedules, pick up and drop off schedules, all of that must be provided. I said all of that must be provided, and evidence that it exists. So it's not just for you to write, oh, we have it. You must be able to put in the evidence that shows that you have it and they exist. Okay, at the entrance, everything that you have, I can't say it enough. The way you ask your students to answer a question. If they don't answer properly and just write, I know it, you will score them wrong. You need to demonstrate that you have these things in place for it to show the person that is evaluating your plan that you have all these things that you have mentioned. Okay, so that takes us to the second plan, the health and safety plan. The health and safety plan, looks at both sanitation and PPE and the monitoring and all of that. You need to have everything in place that shows that you have provided everything necessary for health and safety of every single person in your school. So as children are coming in, as teachers are coming in, how are you ensuring that all of the everybody is safe to enter the school premises? So we have talked about coming in, and we've talked about sanitation stations. We have talked about temperature checks. Every school should check the temperature of everybody that is coming in. You are not supposed to allow anybody in if their temperature is beyond 37 degrees centigrade. And one thing you're supposed to do or have in your school is your banners that talk about COVID-19. So you need to ensure you educate people from the gate of your school about your COVID-19 protocols and why some things cannot be done in your school. So for instance, a critical banner all schools must have is the no mask, no entry banner or sticker or whatever, visible enough for everybody to see it. And you must enforce it at the gate that nobody can enter if they don't have a face mask. So no mask, no entry, and then other banners that educate about COVID-19. It's important that even at the sanitation stations, there's also a banner that teaches you how to wash your hands, the procedures and everything that you need to do. That's another entry procedure that has to do with health and safety. You need to ensure that everybody has adequate PPE, personal protective equipment, and it's not the full regalia. We're talking about the face mask. For additional protection, you can use the face shield. The face shield alone does not protect you from COVID-19. It is the face mask that does the job. And this is what the Ministry of Health has said. The only time that anyone should use a face shield is if the child has breathing problems and they have been cleared to say, okay, this child has breathing problems and would be required to use a face shield. Now, once that child is cleared, you need to go and explain to the other classroom members or the other children in the class to understand why that child has been cleared to wear a shield, so that they don't think that they have the permission to wear shields, because shields are not 100% safe. It is just for children that cannot breathe properly, and then children under 5. It has been said adequate PPE for both, I mean, all staff and students must have adequate PPE. Now, what the training says is that every child must have a minimum of 3. Because we know that things happen during the day, we're wearing cloth masks, it can get soiled, they can sneeze in it, you know, all of that. They must have at least 3 with them every day. It doesn't mean that they will use it. They just have to have replacement for them to be able to reuse another one if they don't have a mask. As a school as well, you also want to have your own PPE in case a child comes to school without a mask. Yes, we have no mask, no entry, but we shouldn't send a child home because they don't have a mask. You can have your, I mean, as a school, you should have some masks in school that would allow the child, I mean, that will allow you to be able to take one for the child to use and go into school. Yes, we know that some children, once they know that you have that back end plan, they might not come to school with a mask every day. Monitor the children that are taking advantage of it and take appropriate actions, but always have a backup in case a child doesn't have a mask so that the school can provide for the child and they can come in to learn. Remember, our children have already lost a lot of time while at home. Okay, so one of the schedules that you also want to have is the cleaning schedule. Remember, we're talking about health and safety. We need to ensure that the school is properly cleaned. So not just cleaning in the morning and then you go away. There has to be a schedule for regular cleaning because, as we all know, I'm sure we all know about COVID-19. We've heard about the disease. It is spread by droplets. And we need to ensure that surfaces are cleaned regularly. So a lot of us have railings going up our stairs. There has to be a schedule for the railings to be cleaned, not just once a day, but regularly, even during as children are passing. Remember our hands. The reason we're washing our hands and sanitizing our hands is because that is the core point where this thing is being passed. So the hand railing of the staircase is somewhere where it needs to be clean all the time. You have the fan, I mean the control for the fan. You know, there are different places where our hands touch. Those places need to be cleaned, and there has to be a schedule that shows that those places are being cleaned regularly. And there has to be evidence that this is being done. So as your cleaning personnel is doing that, they should be marking a schedule or marking a roster or doing something that shows that they are doing this. This is the time they did the last one. This is the time they, I mean, did that. Even classrooms. So even our labs, for instance, someone said, oh, if we're ensuring that we're doing this social distancing in the classroom and we don't want pods to mix together, what about the labs for secondary schools that, I mean, is being shared by different classrooms? You have a cleaning schedule. That's the solution. Once a class finishes in the lab and they go out, there has to be a schedule that tells the cleaning personnel or the janitor, whatever we call them, to come in and wipe down that lab so that the next pod that is coming into a safe environment. And that is exactly what we need to be doing and why we need to have those schedules. Unfortunately, if you don't have a schedule or a roster or whatever that shows it, there is no evidence to know that you are doing it as a school. So we need to ensure that we have those schedules in place. Okay. So those schedules should be done. Hand washing schedules for children. So depending on the classes that you have, you might have time for children to also during the day go and wash their hands, or have, if they have their hand sanitizers, you know, you have a schedule of when you want to ensure that they do that. You also want to be able to ensure that you're monitoring attendance for every single person. Attendance for teachers, attendance for children, because when somebody is missing and they are not coming to school, please, can we mute our microphone? Thank you. We want to ensure proper attendance is being taken. The reason related issue, or why didn't they come to school, so that we can track. And remember, we don't want children to mix together in terms of their pods. So we want to be able to know that each pod is closely knit, so that in case there are any situation, we don't have to shut down the entire school. We are pod that was affected, and we're able to critically know how to deal with a situation when there's an incident. Okay, so attendance monitoring is so critical at this point in time. So all of those things should be in our plan, how we want to deal with that. Even our schedules for teachers, schedules for teacher rotation, all of that has to be documented and put in place. Because if there's any, so for, I mean, primary schools, for instance, where the class teacher teaches everything and there's no rotation, that's fine. But when we start talking about secondary schools where teachers are moving, we need to be able to understand where they are going to and knowing which class they've gone to, their timetables, their rotations, so that if there's any incident, it can be easily tracked. Okay. Now we need to be able to also have in our health and safety plan how we will report incidents and how we will take action for isolating suspected COVID-19 cases. All of that must be within our plan. And that is why we must have the isolation room. You know, we don't want to ask you, what will you do when you find that there's this COVID-19 case? And the first thing you say is, God forbid. That's not a critical response. There must be a plan, because it can happen. It can happen in your school. So there has to be a very clear plan for that you would take for isolating suspected COVID-19 cases. We would also provide, I mean, on the portal, I mean, on the live website, I will also show us some of the additional requirements for schools that have boarding houses, so that you can know the special requirements you need to put in place if your school has a boarding facility. All right. So that is a critical part of what we need to do under health and safety. Please, if you have questions, put it in the chat room and I would respond at the end of the day. I'm sure that as I'm going through this training, I'm already providing responses to some of the questions that we have there. But please keep dropping your questions in there so that I would address it at the end of the day. Okay. One of the critical things as well that I want to mention that I kind of skipped before is that when I said that everybody must wear a face mask, the teacher, when there's in the classroom, there's supposed to be the social distancing must also happen for the teacher. But we know that it's difficult to speak when it comes to to teach when it comes to teaching with a nose mask, and then for children, you know, for in terms of the class sizes for children to hear at the back. If there is appropriate distancing, and if the children are not sitting up until the front of the class, the teacher can use a shield if there's the 1.5 to 2 meters from the children. But if they are close by, then the teacher has to mask up. Okay. But if they have that proper distancing, the teacher can wear the shield. But in the nursery school, because the children need to see the expressions of the face of the teacher and to be able to respond to what the teacher is saying, we say that there should be appropriate distancing and the teacher can then now wear the face shield to teach the children so that they can get what they have. So that's part of the safety measures for that as well. Okay, so that, you know, brings us to the third plan as well. Remember, I mentioned that all of this is in the online training. I'm not speaking from my head. I'm speaking from what is in the training online that we all took or that we're all about to take. So if you go through the training, you would have all this information. One of the things that a school is for is went home and stayed home for a long period of time and came back, and there were obviously learning gaps and learning losses. And we need to be able to address that. So how are we, and then as we come in, remember during the operational plan, I mentioned that we might need to stagger our classes, we might need to divide into pods, which also still poses a lot of challenges when it comes to learning. So as a school, we want to understand your learning challenges and how you're dealing with it. What are your plans for physical teaching? What are your plans for remediation? What are your plans for assessment? So as the children came back to school, did you do an assessment? How are you planning for remediation? You know, how are you planning for continued learning? Because as they come in, they might not be able to come to school every day. So how are you planning for distance learning? You might not have access to high tech, but there are tech that can be available for our children. We saw a public school that showed us that, oh, WhatsApp did not even work for us because of our class sizes. We had to move to Telegram, and we saw that they did a couple of, they showed us a couple of classes they ran on Telegram. Yes, they also told us that not 100% of the children were able to access that medium of learning. They showed us some learning packets that they took home, photocopies they did for children to be taken home. So you need to be able to provide your plan for ensuring that learning continues for all children within your school, whether because there's staggered learning, staggered attendance because of the social distancing requirement, but you need to show a plan, a clear plan as to how you would ensure that every child continues to learn in your school. Okay. And this is very important because this is exactly the reason why children are coming to school in the first place. Okay, so whether it's physical or blended, you need to show in the plan, talk about virtual mediums you're going to use if you're using virtual mediums. You also want to show us you know, some of the evidence of, you know, some of the classes. So if you want to take a please, can you mic? Thank you. You also want to show us, you know, some of your virtual content. You can take a screenshot of some of your virtual content to just show that you're doing that. You know, you need to articulate and explain your plan for remediation. So what are you doing? Is it that you're offering additional classes for children that are falling behind? You need to let us know. You need to let us also, you know, show us the progress of some of your children and how you are doing that. So it's like telling us what you're doing to ensure that every child is learning. That is what this plan is for. It has to show us all of those details. I hope that has covered. I mean, I can't stress this enough. The academic and learning plan is very, very critical, and we need to show that our children are learning, because this is the essence of our school in the first place, before COVID-19 disrupted a lot of things. So that is very important to us. Okay, so the data and communication plan is the last plan that we need to have. It is a plan that it's one of the baseline of everything that we're doing, because data helps us to trace. So for contact tracing, if there's no data, there's no way we can find out anything. So we need to have, you know, community contact details. When we say community, we're talking about the school community. So details of parents with phone numbers as well as emergency contacts. All staff must also, because COVID-19 is not just for the children, anybody can have COVID-19. So we need to be able to have details of everybody in case anything goes wrong, you know. So we also need to be able to ensure that information goes on. So we are now, in addition to being a school, also being a place where we are sensitizing our community about COVID-19. Remember the banners I said which will be at our If you have emails, how are you communicating with your parents? You need to constantly tell us, how are you telling them about things that are happening as it relates to COVID-19 and the school community? You need to show evidence of frequent communication, whether it is the bulk SMS you are sending or WhatsApp messages or whatever to parents. You must show that you are communicating and keeping them up to date as to what is going on. Okay, so you must also continue to show surveys that you're doing, asking parents questions. Have they traveled recently? Just so that you want to, and it's not travel overseas only. Have they gone beyond that? Because we need to know a lot of information about what exactly is going on, even with our parents, because our children don't live alone. They live with their parents, and their parents also go to different places. So we need to constantly run surveys to understand what is going on at home with our parents. We need to have an active virtual PTA at this point. If you can't have a physical PTA, you can have a WhatsApp PTA forum. You constantly have meetings or communications with your parents. Send them messages for those that are not on WhatsApp. Get them to understand what is going on. Data and communication is very critical. You also need to have all policies in place. And that is very, 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 very important. Policies and procedures. Policies and procedures. If you had gone through the training, you will have heard of the list of policies and procedures you need to have. One of them is the child protection policy, and taking the child protection training that has been provided. That's one, but that's not the only one. I mean, there are about 6 policies and procedures that the training tells you to have. Policies and procedures for distance learning, for truancy, for driving re-enrollment, for contacting parents and guardians when students or staff have been exposed or when they have signs of COVID-19. There are different policies that the training has told us to have. So that exactly, I mean, this plan has to demonstrate all of those policies. You need to have those policies in this plan for it to be reviewed so that we're sure that you have those policies in place. Okay, and like I mentioned, when you upload the plans, some people are going to come and evaluate first and score before they come to your school. When they come to your school for the clearance visits, they also want to see. So it's not just for you to put it in the plan, it's also for it to be available in real time. So that is very important. One of the key things you need to have is a designated COVID-19 officer in your school. And that person can be your normal health officer. Some schools have a safeguarding officer. I've heard a couple of names. It can be that same person, but I mean, this person for now must also know that they must be the contact person for COVID-19 issues in the school. So that person must be the dedicated COVID-19 officer who takes charge, because when OEQ evaluators come for inspection for the clearance visit, they are going to ask for your designated officer, because that's the person that's going to accompany them, maybe alongside the principal or the head teacher. But that person is the person they're going to be asking questions, and that person must know where everything is, because that person should be the point person for this particular exercise. So would advise that if you don't have one, please have one now, and make sure that you always have all of your information accessible, so that when evaluators come in to come and work with your school, so they're not coming to come and crucify your school, I keep saying it, they're coming to work with your school to mentor you on how to ensure that you comply and get to the level where we are. I mean, OEQ is happy to say that you're safe for all the entire school community. Then that's when we can say that your school is actually safe to reopen. Yes, you can be physically open, but we need to ensure that you are safe to reopen. schools closed yesterday. I don't know if DG or AQ is going to extend it for you, or I don't know, but it closed yesterday. But then request for clearance is also closing. And that is why you need to ensure your 4 plans are done on time. So request for clearance, which is uploading your 4 certificates of your training and uploading your 4 plans, is going to close on Tuesday, 15th December 2020. So you have just a few weeks. Today is 14th. So that's about a month that you have to finish your 4 plans, finish the training, upload everything, and request for clearance. So that brings me to the end of this section. I'm going to take some Q&A. I don't know if the DG has any comments before I go into the Q&A section and try to take some questions before I go to the live website to show where everything is live. All right, so I'm going to go into the Q&A. There are already 30 questions here. Let me take them one by one. Okay, so when we're talking about population, public schools doesn't have enough space to accommodate the students. Don't you think it's dangerous to both students and teachers? Of course, it is dangerous to both students and teachers. That's why we've asked you to do your classroom floor plans and to do the spacing based on the 1.5 meters, then come up with the number of students that should be in that class, and then we would decide, and then you tell us how many pods that class must have. So if I mentioned that example, if your class has 90 children normally, and by the number of children should be 30, it means that that class should be divided into 3 pods. So 3 pods of 30. And then you now have to move into staggered learning. That is the COVID-19 protocol for classroom management. So that is what should be in your plan. That is what you should submit. And that is what you should implement. Okay, so that's done. If only 3 members of staff and 3 management staff are to be registered, why are all members of staff directed to register compulsorily? We said that everybody should register. Everybody should register. We are saying that we need at least 3 management staff or teachers to submit their certificate for clearance. That's a different thing. So hear me well. It is not that only 3 people are required to take the training. Everybody needs to understand the COVID-19 protocol. COVID-19 doesn't know only 3 teachers and the principal in your school. It is everybody. So all teachers, everybody should understand the content of the training, and that is why they must register. Every single person must register. But we're saying for the purpose of clearance, you just need to upload 3 certificates of the management staff or teachers and that of the principal who registered on behalf of the school. So that is what we have said. Okay. Good morning. Is the principal expected to create the school plan? Well, the principal is expected to lead on the creation of the school plan. You are definitely allowed to work with your teachers and your team members. I mean, you lead the school, the box is on your table to create the plans and submit, but I don't expect that you would do it on your own. I expect that you would work with your team. I expect that you would bring in your teachers, you would brainstorm. In fact, you can set up a COVID-19 response committee within your school, bring in people that you know. You have a health education teacher, you have, all of the people that you know that can help you to achieve all what I have said. This is not something for someone's head alone. You have a team for a purpose. So your entire team, and that's why everybody must take the training. principal should take responsibility, but work with the team within the school to come up with it. In fact, you need your security guard in that meeting, because in coming up with the plan, they also are stakeholders. I mean, they are in fact one of the most critical stakeholders in this process. Your cleaners are very critical stakeholders in this process. So you shouldn't be writing something over their heads. You know, they should understand what you're doing. They should be part of the process, so that when you're submitting the plan, you are telling them, I'm telling government that you will be cleaning this place every 3 hours. Do you agree? I mean, they have to be part of the process. Not that you agree, but, you know, let them be part of the process, so that when you submit the plan and evaluators come in, the cleaner will say, I didn't know, they didn't tell me that I'm supposed to be cleaning every 3 hours. I wasn't involved. I mean, I just do it the way I used to do it before. So it is important that we carry them along and we ensure that they are part of the process, but the buck sits on the table of the principal. Can we get the slides displayed through our email addresses? I will send the slides to Re-Oeqa, and they will find a way to get it across to you. And I also mentioned that this recording is going to be available, and so you can also listen to it again. Please, if someone who has registered in a school, done the training, gotten certificates, and transferred to another school, should such person register and take the course again? Okay, so are they registering as the principal or as a teacher? I need to Bola Tito Ogumbi, please, I need further information if it is teacher or principal. Let me know. But for this process, if you've taken the training, the training of the teacher is linked to the school. So for you to be able to say that you've taken the training on behalf of the school, they might need to take the training again. But just let me know if it's a teacher or a student, and then we can address it on a case-by-case basis. When my school acquires clearance, are we to invite the Re-Oeqa officials, or will they visit automatically once we upload the stuff? Okay, I did answer this. Thank you, Aziz. I did answer this a while ago. Once you submit, that is fine. Re-Oeqa will get it, evaluate, and then get back to you. You don't need to call them or invite them. Once you submit, they will see it at the back end, and then they will commence the process of evaluation of the plan before the evaluators come to the field. Does it mean that after the registration of the school and at least 3 members of the staff dictates why others are unable to register? I'm not very clear about this question. That's Idowu Adenike Faweya. I'm not very clear about this question. Please, can you ask again and make it very clear so that I can understand how to respond. I want to know if the accounting officer or head of the school has to register first before the 3 management staff or teachers. Yes. So Grace Adebola Onoyemi, the school needs to register first and get a code. It is the school code that the teacher would use to register. So if there's no school code, the teacher cannot register. Because when they are registering, when they put in the school code, what will happen is that the name of the school will appear before the teacher now puts in their registration information. So they need the code of the school to ensure that they can register as teachers or staff. After a school has registered, can teachers still register and take the training after now? A lot of them have issues going through the process on their own. Well, the school has to register, then the teachers register. I don't understand why they would have issues. Is it tech issues or understanding what the content of the training is saying? Or I'm very, very clear what they have issues about in terms of the process. within the school premises. If you have to support them during that process, please do, but let them be able to take the training. But if it's a tech issue, please contact OEQA. They will support you with tech at the back end. So that answers Agu's question. Can I do at the end of this training? I think Fauzat will provide us with information on the backend. We can contact OEQA, that we can contact for helping us to resolve the tech issues. Ma, I saw the message sent to schools that at least 4 people should register. Don't you think that should be okay in case of public schools where you have many teachers and all of us are unable to register? Will you please extend the period? Okay, so I've mentioned the school principal, 3 other staff, so that makes 4 people must register, take the training for the purpose of clearance. So yes, the school can proceed for clearance with those 4 certificates, but we need everybody to take the training and register. Register and take the training, because it's not just only 4 people that are in the school. Everybody needs to take the training. Okay. Modupe Osho, I obtained my certificate while at Shasha Community Junior School, and my certificate bears the name of the school. Now I have been redeployed to Community Secondary Grammar School. Can I still use my certificate? Okay, that has to be answered. I need to get back to us on that. It shows that you have taken your training. It also shows that the person that the school wants to use as, so there are 2 different things that has come out with this question. The first thing is that if only 3 of you have taken this training at Shasha Community Junior High School, it means that the school, the person that they're submitting the certificate for, is no longer in the school. So when the evaluators come for to inspect and to check, and they ask for the 3 management staff or teachers that took the training, it means that they cannot call you because you're no longer there. So first, the school needs to get someone to do that training again, so that they don't upload, if they haven't done so, upload just your own certificate and you have been redeployed. So that's one leg. And then for you that have left to another school, it means that yes, you have taken the training, but the school you are going to right now cannot use your certificate to ask for clearance because it doesn't bear the name of their school. Okay, is how staggered attendance, okay, well done, ma'am. My question is, how can staggered attendance of students be achievable for government-owned schools? Since the government hasn't authorized schools, especially for model schools, to do so, my belief is that staggered attendance has been authorized for all schools. COVID-19 protocols require that we make our schools safe for all children. And it is important that if staggered attendance is the best way to achieve safety, then that should be implemented. I've seen public schools that have implemented staggered attendance. So I believe, and I'm going to also pack that in a section. I'm writing that down for DG to provide an answer to, because it is critical that we all have that understanding right now. We all need to keep our schools safe. So if staggered attendance is the solution, that is what we need to do. Okay. Can this material be sent to us? Yes, it will be sent. Can there be provision from the government for face masks for children in public schools, bearing in mind that many are less privileged? Okay, I will leave that for the DG, but my own response is that there are ways we also can help cloth. They can, yes, they can be provided, but I mean, I need DG to respond to that. But there are ways that schools have innovated to ensure that every child has a face mask. And it includes, doing one for themselves, creating a way where they can have their own face masks for themselves, or do one through home economics and all of that. That is one solution. There can be multiple solutions, but I don't think government providing face masks for every single child in the school. We requested that they have 3. It is possible that the children or the parents can provide that for their children. Remember, we also talked about sensitization under data and communications plan. We need to ensure that we speak to the parents as well, so that they understand the importance of this, so that they also can invest in face masks for their children. It's an investment for their health. So we can also educate our parents and sensitize them to do that. But of course, if government can provide, I will let DG respond to that. Is there a template for the plans? No, we have not provided a template because we don't want everybody to copy and paste. What we have given in the training, or what OEQA has provided in the training, is a guideline of what should be in your plan. The plan must be uploaded. That means it must be typed, because you cannot handwrite. Yes, you can handwrite it and take a picture, but it won't be clear for the person evaluating your plan to read it. So it must be typed, Microsoft Word, and it will be uploaded in the section that I will show you online when I go live to the website of OEQA. So it must be typed and uploaded. Okay, the questions are increasing. At some point, I would have to take a break and go to the live website, and then I would get back to the questions. Okay. If you have insufficient number of classrooms, how can staggering be achieved? So staggering means that, some people come, it might mean that you have alternate days. So staggering, for you to be able to achieve staggering, you need to be able to, see if you would use alternate days instead of utilizing all of your classrooms, since it's not enough. So that is what staggering is about. Mr. Lalade says, my school sick bay has been locked up by QA as of December 2018 due to nurse working there, which was employed by an NGO around our school. Okay, so that's a matter for OEQA. I think someone from OEQA will pick that up. At this point, no sick bay should be locked up or closed down. It should be available for everyone to use. Okay, let me see another question. The class physical distancing of 1.5 to 2 meters is realistic in public schools, even going by the staggered resumption? Okay, I think Alison is asking, is class physical distancing? Okay, it's a question. Is it realistic? So, we need to look at the balance between what is realistic and what is safe and what is required. Okay. So, is it realistic? That's why we said, let us know the number of children in your class. Let us do the 1.5 meters social distancing. Let's know how many children it can take. If you have 150 students and it can only take 30, put it in your plan, escalate it in your plan, then we will know what to do. If it means that we need to go thermometer for you, but you have to escalate. If you don't escalate, we won't know. But is it realistic? Yes, it is realistic. With staggered assumption, we will come up with a solution. And that's why we said each school is unique. Each school, it's important for your plan to tell us exactly what the situation is with your school. If there's a need for extraordinary approval for your school for certain things, then that will be considered on a case-by-case basis. But that has to be done based on information and data provided in your plan. So if your plan now tells us that, oh, in a class of, we have 180, and based on social distancing, can only sit 30, how many staggered attendance can we do with 180 versus, then we consider that case as that case. That case might not be the same case for the next public school. So we cannot generalize. There's a standard rule that everybody needs to follow. So that's what we have provided. But if the case of your school is very unique and special, put it in your plan. That's why your plan has to be explanatory. Take a picture of the class, put it there. Let us see, let the plan be available for decision making so that then your school can then be looked into as a specific and unique case. So that is what I would advise that you do. But is it realistic? Yes, it is realistic. Each school would be considered on its own merit and its own uniqueness. Okay, this Sunday Olusegun says, concerning school population and executing plan, a situation where after observing the COVID-19 protocols, staggered classes, placing them in pods, we still have over 75 rooms with the staff population of about 32. How do we cope with teaching and learning? I'm trying to understand this. Okay, how do you cope? Everybody has to give in their extra at this point. We have to find a way to put in extra work to ensure that the children are learning. That's why we said in your learning and academic plan, you have to demonstrate how you're going to achieve all of this, because you might want to put some of the things in the curriculum as something the children will take home. Some things might be done on virtual classes, some things will be done in the physical class, some things might be done as assignments. You need to find, it's a challenging time for educators everywhere. We need to find how we're going to cope, and that's what the plan, that's why you need to brainstorm. That is why you need to sit. That's why I said the process of writing the plan is not just for the principal, it's for everybody, because exactly what you've asked is a topic for your brainstorming session with your staff, with all the teachers. So how do we cope? How do we ensure that they cover the curriculum? Do we give them this much as assignments? Do we give them this much as physical class because we only get to spend 3 hours in class? Do we, you have to be able to sit down and decide as a team how this is going to happen. So it's not for me to dictate what you will do in your school. It's for you to be able to sit down with your team, with your teachers, and determine what that plan would be, and then document that plan and submit to OEQA. But the baseline is that teaching and learning must go on despite this crisis.
I also want to add, please, that is a very valid question, right? And each school and each district is quite unique. So if you have been able to do the heavy lifting and thinking through the specifications of your school, we've tried everything, this is the structure we have on ground and all of that, then you know on the ground what is feasibly possible, right? For some time, many students were at home. And at the end of the day, this has to do with safety for all. We keep telling schools, especially our private schools, everyone, that we must be ready and willing to close. So as much as we want to learn, want to continue learning, we know that in some circumstances, learning at home, learning remotely may be the safest thing for students and for staff, especially if there's a confirmed case of COVID, right? especially if that is the case. So at that point where you notice that all options, children are coming home, coming to school once a week, everything has been exhausted, that is when you escalate also, and you advise, you give recommendations to your tutor general, permanent secretary, your chairman, and you get their input because they are the accounting officers of your school, right? You take it a step further and you let them know. They can then take it a step further and say, this is what we can do, this is what we can do. Okay, but you've done your part, right? So ultimately, the plans are to be done per school. But in the case of, public schools, ultimately the accounting officers are your tutor generals, your chairman, your executive secretary in the case of LASVEB, right? So you are the first layer. If you're able to do it well, fine. But if you find that it is impossible, you escalate it to your tutor general and you say, this is the last leg before, submitting the plans towards clearance, and this is our advice. Thank you.
Thank you, DG. And I really like what you mentioned about you have exhausted all possible solutions. So it means that you have brainstormed, you have looked at every possible opportunity. As you're going to your tutor general, you're going with evidence to say, this is, we have done scenario 1, scenario 2, scenario 1 million, and it is not possible. So it's not that, oh, it can't work. We've not tried. I don't see how this is going to work. We need to have looked at all possible options of how this can work. And I'm sure that you would find a solution, and if there's none, after exhausting all of that, you escalate to the next level. For those of us that have been changed or shifted, so there's the scenario where we have a vice principal who registered the school, and then there's a new principal. They switch names at this point. The certificate has been created, but the new principal can also register and take the course and get a certificate as well. Okay, so that's it. I think all those questions relating to movement.
And I hope that the ICT is helping also to
Yes,
make
ma'am.
sure that to read some of those questions out, so that the moderator can focus on answering the questions and doesn't have to walk through all of the different questions that are there. Thank you.
Okay, ma'am. Ms. Onito, how would you like me to read out some questions? Though I'm answering some straight up and sending it to them privately.
Yes. Please go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have a few questions in the chat box. Somebody said, how would they want to share about the cleaning schedule? That you should elaborate on that. That's in the chat box. That was discovered in the chat box. So
okay. So the cleaning schedule is it's just a schedule, a table that shows how often you're cleaning certain locations in your school. It's nothing. If some of us have been to maybe public spaces or hotels, at the back of the door of the toilet, you see some schedule that somebody is filling and marking that they did this they cleaned it at 7, 8, 9, 10. So it will have a table of location, the name of the cleaner, what time they cleaned that, toilet 1, toilet 2, classroom 1, hand railing, section A. You label everywhere, and then they just sign off or tick that they clean this place at this specific time. So it's just a schedule, it's a table, and then it may have a section that it was checked by someone. I would show us the toolkit that is provided. I did what particular location in the school.
Okay, ma. So somebody also said, at what point does the school get certificate? Is it after all the plans are uploaded?
So this training certificate is once they complete the training and they pass the assessment, they will get their certificate. So the certificate doesn't have to do with any upload. Once you register, you get your code, you take the training, you take the final assessment, you score above 80. Once you do that, you're supposed to get your certificate.
Okay, ma. If a child has COVID-19, who do we contact first? That's from Miss Cecilia.
Yeah, so the first the person you contact is, so you're supposed to have NCDC contact, you're supposed to have the contact of the COVID-19 health center facility for your local government. There is a schedule for all of those centers for all local governments in Lagos. I'm sure that we would provide that information as well to you. But then the person you need to contact after all of that are the parents of the child, because once that happens, the child is supposed to be in the isolation bay, and the recommendation from Ministry of Health is that the entire process should not take more than 1 hour. Now, that is why we said you must have emergency contact of, if possible, 10 people for that child, because if you have a child that have parents that you call them and their phone doesn't go through, or they don't even have a phone, they put SIM card in somebody else's phone when they get home at night, or whatever issues that we normally have, they should have given you extra people that you can reach in case anything happens, so that there's somebody you can contact that this is the situation, and the child must be evacuated within 1 hour of that particular incident being noticed.
Okay, thank you, ma. So we have quite a number of people asking about model school. This anonymous attendee said, thank you for answering my question on staggered attendance, but I'm telling you confirmatory that students are still made to attend every day in my own school, which is a model school and has both boarders and day students. Is how do you address that, ma'am?
DG, can you help us with that particular question?
Okay, so for the model colleges, I'm not sure if I heard. Did you say that everyone's a model college boarding and day, and children are going every day? Is
Yes,
that what?
yes, ma'am.
Okay, there's no case of COVID, right?
Yes, none discovered yet, but she's saying that they are not adhering to the staggered learning, and maybe she's concerned about the number of students in class.
Yes, so that's why these plans are going to help you, because you'll have something tangible to recommend to your Tutor General Permanent Secretary, right? The Tutor General Permanent Secretary is the overall accounting officer for the district, but you on the ground, it is your responsibility to give them tangible information that they can use for decision making at the policy level. Okay, so if you follow the training, if you are doing the plans and you realize that some things cannot work, we've done A, we've done B, we've done C. This is how we believe things can move forward, and these are our recommendations. Then you forward that to your Tutor General Permanent Secretary, right? When we come to your school, generally during this time, we've been doing a lot of sensitization, we've been doing a lot of support. So you won't move on to the clearance stage until, you know, those things have been addressed and taken care of. You will not move on to the clearance stage. But in order to even, you know, attempt to even get clearance in the first place, it is your responsibility to have done the heavy lifting. QA cannot do the heavy lifting for you, because there's no one size fits all approach. So instead of just saying this is the situation and, you know, it's overpopulated and they're coming every day, go through these plans. What exactly are the hindrances? Once you figure them out, you figure out alternatives for that. And there are places where there's no alternative, you forward it as a report to your tutor general, permanent secretary, whatever accounting officer you have, and they will address it at that time. They will address it at that time. Okay, so number one, go through the training, do your part, and know what the expectations are, because you can't give what you don't have. Number one, go through the training. Number two, go through the heavy lifting it takes to create those plans with your teams. Go through the heavy lifting that is required to go through learning plan, a health, safety, sanitation plan, operational plan, and communication plan. 4, actually do it. Don't say we don't normally do this and we're not sure, because you are forestalling your process. And at the end of the day, you'll be held accountable. You will be held accountable. Because if the TGPS doesn't have tangible information, they will make assumptions based on the information they have at hand. This is not a matter of just saying things, just talking. No. Take action by documenting what needs to be documented. Send it to your tutor general, permanent secretary for further action. Thank you.
Thank you, the DG, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am, for that. We have quite a number of questions about completing the syllabus or the scheme. So a few people asked about that, but I'm just going to take Mr. Taiwo Kolaole, who said, with these plans, are schools still closing by 1 p.m.? So what will happen to school timetable, and how do we cover the scheme and syllabus for WASSCE?
Okay.
So this is a different, okay, go ahead.
No, go ahead, DG, go ahead.
Okay. So this is a different time, right? It's a different time. It's not like before. We need to be creative. We need to be resourceful in how we're teaching kids, how we're gaining assessment feedback from the assessment. What is the purpose? Are we just doing curriculum for the sake of doing curriculum? So are you just teaching? How do we know these children are even learning? Right? So the focus is learning, but not just for the sake of learning, not just to say you've done your job. What data can you gather from this? Now, what happens in a school that has learning management system and everything is just online and all kids have access to device? It's going to be drastically different from what happens at another school where there's no device and maybe children are just using their exercise books. That's why the learning plans are important, because the learning plans are supposed to be aligned also to what you can realistically do. We can't say, okay, do everything. Everyone should be on week 5 at the same time. We know there's staggered attendance and all that. No. So that's why the learning plans is not just a learning plan without taking into consideration all the other things. So the availability of resources. It is possible that one school will be on week 5 and another school is on week 7. It's possible. Is what we need to ask ourselves at the end of the day is, are we just doing this for the sake of just putting a checkbox and saying that we've completed something? Or do we want to tangibly say that, okay, these first 5 weeks of schooling, I have a solid 2 weeks out of the 5 weeks? Or is everything kele, week 1, half, week 2, quarter, week 3? We should have some things that are solid. Okay, our term is 13 weeks. Out of this 13 weeks, we have completed a quarter of these 13 weeks. We have completed. Not that we've done everything haphazardly, no. And that has to do with you figuring out the available resources that your school has. That's the honest truth. If you don't have access to some things, then if it needs to be exercise book with photocopy, then let it be that. Then let it be that. And this is going to require more hands on deck than previously. Because remember, apart from social distancing, we don't want people to come to school who are not feeling well. We don't want teachers in school who are not feeling fine. Likewise with students. So even when we're considering that demographic alone, would they stay home doing nothing? There has to be something. Okay, so let's put on a different type of hat, fila, gele, whatever. Let's put on a different one. How can we do things differently? There are opportunities that exist here. Let's take ownership over these opportunities for things to be done differently. That's why you need to consider all of these plans, not just one. We didn't just say, and we just want to see thermometer and the sanitizer. No, we have to have a holistic view of how education can happen and happen well, given our resources. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ma. May
there's
I say
now
that the
to-
contact?
Yes. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, Ma. Okay, Ma. May I just state that the helpline contact is in the chat box and our website is there on the chat box too.
Okay,
So-
awesome. I just want to quickly answer a question that I saw. It is about, that question, they asked that what is the maximum number of children in a class? And I want to share my screen now. There is no maximum. It is based on the size of your class. So this is an example, for instance. The reason this diagram is here is that they have measured the classroom and they have done a 2-meter pupil layout and a 2-meter teacher layout. And it is only when they've done this layout can they say 12 children are sitting in this class. It is not that there is a maximum number. Because I gave an example of 30, please do not quote me that, oh, Mrs. Onito said that maximum is 30 in the class. No. It is relative to the size of the class. So your class needs to be measured. You need to know the square meters of your class. You need to then align that with the social distancing requirement of 1.5 to 2 meters. And then now have that floor plan to show this is the number of students that can sit in this class based on the square meter and the 1.5 or 2 meter spacing that we have done. This is where the teacher would sit. This is where the children will sit. And, this is the requirement. And based on this, the number that can sit in this particular classroom is 30 or is 15 or is 12. Now, if you have the same size of classrooms all through, so if your school was built with a standard and all your classrooms are the same size, you can have one of these layouts. But if you have different sizes of classrooms, every classroom of a different size must have a floor plan and the maximum number of children that can sit in that classroom. I hope this provides the clarification for us on that subject.
Thank you very much, Ms. Onito. We have so many participants saying they are enjoying the training, thanking you, thanking the DG. But somebody also said, can this training be periodic, even after even when COVID is over? Can we have a periodic training like this, even when COVID is over?
Absolutely. We also feel like, it's about time. That's the only phrase I can think of, that it's about time that we engaged you in more meaningful ways. And this is just a very first step. So for us, this is a first step, and there are many more that we're planning. We know how important teachers and principals are in the delivery of quality education, direct. You have advantages that those of us at Alausa can only dream of. And we know that if we want the education to move in a certain way, that you are in many ways, you are our first line of defense, you are first responders. So absolutely, we are already in the talks of figuring out, the topics that we'll be discussing with you and how we can, support you during this time and beyond. Ensure that we have your contact details. I was told that the pre-registration was not done. That would have been a perfect time for us to, gather data. but I'm not sure. I'm sure ICT will address this toward the end as to how she will be able to get all of your contact information so you can be notified of upcoming training sessions that we may have. One thing I also want to make sure that we share with you all after the meeting, we've designed a emergency response strategic document for how we should be responding in different types of situations, different types of emergency situations. For instance, we had the NSAS in the middle of a pandemic, so what should happen, in such a time? We have that document. And then we also have a strategic document for prevention and management of COVID-19 in boarding and day schools, So this is information we want to get in your hands. We've sent them to your accounting officers, your tutor general, permanent secretaries, and chairman and ES last verb. And, whatever it is that we're doing, we realize that information is moving, information is changing. So sometimes, even if we had a document that we did in July, if it needs to be updated, we'll update it and we'll send out an updated version, So we are moving, and we know that you are moving as well. So I believe that's about it, but definitely this is first of many more to come. Thank you.
Thank you
Okay.
very much, my Jujima. So, okay. Ms. Onitoma.
3 more questions. I'll go to the live site, then we'll come back and take, because some of the questions that I'm seeing are relating to things that I'll cover when I go to the site, which is live. So maybe you can take 3 more and then we'll move.
Okay, ma. So generally, people want to know if their school can accommodate the number of students. Would they need to still practice staggered learning? So Mr. Mutiu said, is it possible for school that have enough classrooms to occupy 30 students in a classroom to allow all classes to come from Monday to Friday?
Okay, so that's exactly what I said. Please don't quote me on 30. I didn't say your class should take 30. So if your class has been measured and they've done the 1.5 meter spacing, and that gives us that your class should take 30 children. So that's the only time you can take 30, when you've done your measurements. So assuming that that can happen, and I can give you an instance, my children's school, which is a private school, for instance, my children are in year 6, and there are only 6 in that class, and the class can take them. There's no need for staggered. I mean, in fact, their social distance is about 2.5 as opposed to 1.5, because they're just 6 and they have enough space. So they don't need to stagger. They all come to school Monday to Friday. So if that is the case for you, and I don't know if, I'm not sure there's any public school that has that, small number, but if your class allows for that, and that is not the only consideration for staggered learning. If your population
I was going to say that. I was going to say that, ma. Yes. So let's not just focus on just the population, right? Remember, teachers are grading assignments. Remember, we want to make sure that there's adherence to protocols. Children are wearing masks the way they should be. There's social distancing, there's communication. So the whole system has to be working quite seamlessly for there not to be staggering. Because what happens with staggering allows you to focus your resources on a small subset of children. Keep in mind also the socio-economic, the socio-emotional, health of our children, their families, and teachers as well. It's actually a stressful time. Many people have lost their jobs. Some people, require just someone to even ask them how they're doing throughout the course of the day. Are you able to do that with all your students in school? Because your teachers are serving multiple purposes now. They are not just delivering on traditional education. Your teachers are also serving as semi-counselors. They're serving as semi-COVID compliance officers. They're serving several, roles. So it's a question that you have to ask from the top. right? We can't make that decision for you as to how you can deliver a holistic education to your children, and if that is best done in batches, right? Another thing we want to keep in mind from a safety standpoint is that depending on the ratio of teachers you have to students, that you want the training will address this, but that you want students and teachers to be in bubbles, in batches. So God forbid, if somebody in batch A, has a confirmation of COVID, you may not have to shut down the entire school, right? But if it's the same teachers are working with everybody, and we cannot trace who they've had contact with or where whoever has gone, you not have to shut down the whole system. So let's be, I told you we have to put on another gele when we're talking about this thing. It's not the typical straight line. It's a lot of zigzag and circles. It's not straight line at all. Right? So staggering is not just for the purpose of a physical space. Staggering also allows you to have children in batches and teachers in batches as well. Because you want to be able, if you have one English teacher in the whole school, even if you are staggered and you have just one English teacher, the teacher has had contact with everybody. So let's say that teacher gets COVID. You have to quarantine everybody that teacher has been in contact with, right? So we have to think about this a bit differently, okay? Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Dijima. We
No,
have
I'm sorry. I think Mrs. Oniton was I just interrupted her, so you can just
okay, ma'am.
go ahead and finish what you're
Okay,
going to say.
so I was about to say what you said, that it's not just the class size that determines the ability to also determine if all children should come Monday to Friday. There are different things that you need to consider. You need to consider break time, mass breaks. Can everybody logically be in school at the same time and still observe all of these protocols? In terms of even COVID-19, do we want to ensure that we keep the bubbles safe so that in case anything happens to one small bubble, we can just, have the members of that bubble in isolation so that, and quarantine and school can continue to go on. But if we have teachers and moving around and we don't know where they've gone to, then the entire school has to shut down and everybody has to go home and wait out the period. So that's exactly the reason why we also are not very open to everybody coming Monday to Friday. But let us see your plan, let us see your school, let's see the uniqueness, and then it can be looked into. But you need to be able to evaluate that very clearly based on data. So the size of your classroom, distancing, ensuring all protocols are observed, even with all of this in place.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you for that, ma'am. So I think finally we are summarizing all the questions, and most people, we are asking the DG if she can extend the registration period for those that have not yet registered, and also asking if this training can be for our students in this COVID-19 era.
Okay, I'll let DG answer the extension bit. But can this training happen for students? I think we are taking we've done like a training of trainers. You've taken the online course. You need to be able to take take your students through COVID-19 protocols, train them. There are lots of resources that you can use. Just we can't do a Zoom training for all students in all public schools in Lagos State. It's logically not possible. But we have gotten the training online. We should be able to put that training across to our students, learn more about the virus, teach them, get our health can use to train all your children, but I'm not sure that
I'm
OEQA.
sorry, I last heard when you said get our health, there was a bit of a pause.
Okay,
you
so
said
what
something
I
about get
said
our
was
health.
we can get a standardized training from Ministry of Health in collaboration with OEQA that all public schools can use to train their children. But I'm not sure OEQA can do training for all children in all
It's a
public.
great idea. It's something we've been discussing with health. So we have the OEQA Collaborative Technical Committee, and that committee is basically having representatives of our different MDAs that we work with that we think, could, contribute to the quality of schools, be it the building, be it the physical planning, be it health, be it youth and social development. So, it's very good when you're able to work together collaboratively because there are many things that you can learn. So even using our public MDAs, our different MDAs to cascade training down to not just schools, but also as students is something we're working on now. I know that, for instance, this training, it's being live streamed and it will be available on YouTube. We're also working on the initial session that we had with some of the people at health, recording them and having them on our YouTube as well and on our website. So like I said, this is the very beginning, and we're hoping for more collaboration, more trainings, to improve service delivery to our families and our students, of course. The strategic documents that I talked about earlier on will be available, or should be available, I'm not sure, on our website for you to download. I'm not sure, we may decide, we have our director of PRS here, and our head of unit for, I believe, research or statistics here as well. But if we may create a group where all of you, could be on a certain platform, and we're sharing resources from time to time. We're sharing information. We definitely need to move more into technology and leverage technology for information dissemination. So it may be email, it may be WhatsApp, but we know, I'm sure everyone has at least 2 WhatsApp groups, and it can be hefty if we just keep adding our WhatsApp groups to the phone. So maybe we may consider email or whatever other digital way of getting this information across to everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ma. Did you, how about the extension, Ma, for the registration that most attendees are asking for, Ma?
The thing with deadlines is just that no matter how much you extend it, there'll always be people that will say they didn't know on time, they couldn't do it on time. This thing takes 5 to 7 minutes. We're not saying the entire process, so just you entering and the address of your school, how many teachers you have, where your zone. It's just that information as for registration. And although, yes, we're government and we have that information, yes, we have it, but we need the most up-to-date information. If an NGO comes and says, oh, they want to do this for our schools, we can't start writing letter and asking, oh, are these teachers still here or whatever have you. So it's important, yes, we have that information, but for the purpose of what we're doing now and for the purpose of, quickly getting information to those that need it most, we need to register. Okay. The deadline was yesterday, and we will extend the deadline until Wednesday at 11:59 p.m. You should not enter Thursday. Don't let it enter Thursday. Wednesday. I'm sure that Wednesday, I tún gbọ́ story o. Má jẹ́ ká tún gbọ́ story o. Okay. Well.
Thank you so much, Ma, for that. Ms. Oniton, over to you, Ma. I think we've addressed most questions in the Q&A session, Ma.
school, kindly tell them that they have till Wednesday 11:59 p.m. to register. Once it's 12 midnight Wednesday, that portal will close. On that note, we will park the rest of the 21 questions we have here. And please, IT, take a look at it to be sure that we've not answered some of them. I will go online now and take us through the website. A couple of questions will be answered while I'm there, especially those that are asking for clearance, where should the clearance request and everything. Everything will be shown when I go live now on the website.
One other thing that I want to say, sorry, Ma.
Yes.
One other thing I want to say is that I have charged my own officers that whoever can get the most numbers within their district. So in other words, whichever district has the most registrations or 100% registration with us, that will do something special for them. So principals, head teachers, please get working, contact your colleagues. Let's do something. We promise we'll do something special for the district that has the most registration come the deadline. Okay, so I'm charging you. This is the 14th of November. I'm charging you today that whichever district we're able to get the most registration or 400% registration, whichever comes first, we will do something special for that particular district.
Thank you, DG.
Thank you, Ma.
We are very excited. So on that note, we'll park the rest of the questions for now, and then we'll come back to that question.
I would also like the other panelists to, speak and to share their video so that we can get a screenshot. I know we had far more people, about more than 50 people or more than 40 have gotten off for whatever reason, and they've tried, because we started, most of you have been on before 9 o'clock. We really do appreciate your time. You could be using this time for something else, and we appreciate your commitment during this time. God bless you all. DPRS, Mr. Lu, will make sure your cameras are ready so that ICT can take a nice screenshot of everyone as we round up.
DG and you too.
Okay, we have moved a bit.
Okay, all the panelists, please put on your video.
They were not expecting it. Oh yeah, where are you all? Okay, I think you are going to say something, Mr. Newton. You can.
Okay, shortly before we do that, let me just quickly go online.
Okay.
And just quickly, it's going to take 5 to 10 minutes. Please be attentive and just go through this with me. It is a very simple process. So while I will use that to give time to all of the panelists to go and wash their face, clean the breakfast that they have eaten off their lips, and then we will come back and take the photo. So this is a window that I've opened. To go to the website, you just type www.oeqalagos.com, and that is the website we're going to be able to register our schools. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
All right. So once you come there, the first thing that greets you is the deadline. And I'm sure that DG will get them to change this, because this currently reads Friday the 13th. Request for clearance is Tuesday the 15th of December. So you escape allows you to see everything you need to do, gives you the information, gives you even some of the documents. So you see Federal Ministry of Education, self-assessment, child safety and protection, guidelines for COVID-19 in schools and boarding facilities. You can see all of that you can download from here. And when you want to register your school, you open this and it takes you to the registration portal. We can all see that it is currently closed. Another way you can go for the registration is to come to the registration process here and click on school registration on top of the screen. But here is the registration. I've shown you how to register, but this is where you will come. By the end of today, I'm sure that DG would have approved for them to reopen this registration. So we can all see that it is currently closed. Okay, so that is one level. The other level is the documents I've been talking about. So I had been telling us that there's a part on the website that gives us some documents. This is the part of the website. So you can see here, download documents, you click on it. You will see the child safety guidelines, the federal government guidelines, and the self-assessment checklist that I mentioned. Another critical part of this is this part that talks about reopening toolkits. So this is the toolkit that contains some sample plans that I mentioned. I mean, sample documents. So like the basic academic plan templates, bus schedule, class list, master schedule. These are some of the schedules that are available for us as templates to use. And it's under this reopening toolkit. OEQA will continue to add more samples there, but this is what is currently available there right now. Okay. And then this is the online training where you proceed to take your course. It's going to ask for your code when it's time to take the course. But within the email you get, when you get registration, you also get a link to where to take the training. So that is what it is for school registration. Under
I
the
noticed, sorry, I
Yes.
noticed that for the reviews for the training course, I know many reviews. It will be very helpful if you can give reviews as you are taking the course. Let us know, give us some feedback, and let us know what you think about the course. If things need to be added, things need to be updated, you mention it there so we can also, update what needs to be updated. Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. So yes, that's it for the training. This is the registration for schools. For teachers, you come back to the reopening process and then you come to teacher or staff registration. You can see it here. Under reopening process, teacher or staff registration. And it takes you to a specific page. You can also see that staff registration is also closed. Once it's open, we'll be able to see the registration portal on this side so that your teachers can register. Remember, your teacher or staff cannot register if the school has not successfully registered and gotten their own code. They need the code to be able to achieve their own registration process. Now, for those that have, I mean, maybe when they finish the training, they were unable to download certificates. There's also the option here to see if you can download your certificate. Once you put in your registration code here, then if it's a valid school registration, it asks you to proceed, and then you can retrieve your completion certificate for your training, online training. So if this now doesn't work, then please contact OEQA for them to support you, the IT unit to support you with your certificate. But this is an option to quickly check for you to be able to download your certificate. And then finally, clearance. How do you request for clearance? Under this same reopening process, you look at the clearance form, click on it, and it takes you to the page where you request for clearance. This is what the page looks like. You enter your school code, you enter your school name, you enter your school type, stated, the email address that you use, the phone number, and then this is where you add the plans. So each plan is supposed to be a separate document. You're not supposed to have all 4 plans in one because you're uploading it one after the other. So the operational plan, you add the file. The learning plan, you add the file. Data and communications plan, you add the file and you save. And then the health and safety plan, you add the plan and save. For this side, you then upload the 4 certificates of the staff that have come. So 1 for the school and 3 staff, you upload all of the certificates and you add the file here. And then you click submit. When you click submit, the information goes directly to OEQA. You don't need to go and request for visits. They've seen it. I mentioned the process that goes at the back end. At the back end, the first stage is that the plans are evaluated. Your school is cross-checked that you completed the training. They look at the certificates, and then they evaluate the plans to see if it's adequate. If it is not adequate, they respond back to you to say you need to do this and this and this for us to see that you have properly planned. So they get back to us. But if your plans have scaled through that first evaluation process, then it goes to the evaluators who would then visit your school. They would let you know that they're coming to your school for clearance, COVID-19 clearance visit. And then they come to your school and evaluate your school. Once they evaluate your school, you passing through the planning stage doesn't mean that you would automatically get clearance. It wouldn't mean that you automatically get clearance, but once they come to your school, people can still fail at that stage. So coming to your school doesn't mean that, oh, they're just coming to give you clearance certificate. No, they are coming to do a field level evaluation because some people might write things in their plan and they might not be doing it. So they are coming there to see that you have implemented, you are doing it. The evidence you provided in the plans, they can see it on ground. If you didn't provide it in the plans and you have started doing it, then show the evidence that you're doing it, and then they score. Once they are happy, then you get your clearance certificate. If they are not happy, they tell you where the gaps are, and they give you a period to be able to, what they call it, to amend. So they might say within 2 weeks, you need to put this and this and this in place to ensure that you comply. Now, if at the point where they come for the field visit, they realize that you have not complied and they come again and still haven't complied, this will be escalated to the relevant district and the OEQ.
Sorry, Mrs. Onito, I just want to find out from ICT if she was able to get the screenshot that I requested, because I will have to be leaving on to another meeting in the next 2 minutes.
Okay, so yes, so this is the end actually of the slides share. So we can actually get the picture now, and then you can proceed to leave us. Thank you. So every other person,
DPRS,
please come on board.
And company. Okay, I know we should have probably done this in the beginning. Next time we'll do it so we can show off the many numbers that we have here. Okay.
So everyone should please switch on their camera if you can.
It has been captured, ma.
Thank you.
Tell us now that you have captured it. Tell us.
It has been captured,
No,
ma.
come on again. Don't go away. Come on, let's smile, and you take a second one, and then we release.
Okay, Mrs. Onito, is really your own photo you are concerned of. You are not concerned about the whole group. It's about your own personal. Mrs. Oyewale, we cannot see you. You are looking up.
Can you see me now?
Yes, we can see you. Mr. Oyewale, please look at the camera. Shetty capture.
Yes, ma.
I cannot just be smiling like this. So,
okay, thank you.
Sorry, I have to check out. I'm very sorry. Thank you so much. Okay. Mrs. Onito. Mrs. Onita?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, sorry. I think there was, okay. I think you were
Yes.
saying something.
I said you are free to go. We're also done. We'll just take the
Okay.
next final batch of questions, but we release
Thank
you.
you. Thank you so much. I love you all. Thank you so much for attending. And thank you. Well done, Mrs. Onita. Well done, Mr. Luo. And well done, Mrs. Oyewale. God bless you all. Bye-bye.
Okay, so IT, can we take the final batch of questions so that we can call it a day? It's already 12 noon, and we would like to just address the question. So one of the questions that was asked, I just saw now, that is the clearance for everyone. The clearance is for a school. Each school will get the final clearance. So it's not for teachers or for, no, the school gets the final clearance.
Hello, ma.
Yes, so let's go through the last batch of questions so that we can close.
Okay, ma. So I am most people still asking about the staggered attendance. Okay, we have Mr. Salahuddin. Mr. Salahuddin Shehu Tijani from Maya Community Junior Grammar School. Ma, is it possible for government to provide drugs for all school and to minimize the number admission this year?
To provide drugs? Did you say drugs?
Yes, that's what he asked, for all school and to minimize the number of admission this year.
Well, I think that would be left to go, but I'm wondering what drugs is asking for at this point, but I will leave that for Re-Oeqa to answer later on. Maybe someone from the team can respond. But in terms of number of admissions, and I can't in my position answer that. Maybe someone from the office will do that after I finish. Let's ask other questions relating to my presentation.
Okay, ma. In a situation where there are no sufficient rooms to be converted to isolation room, is it necessary to build a new or separate isolated room? That was asked
if
by
that
Ms.
is the last resort, yes. So if that is the last resort, there must, I mean, we can't reiterate enough, there must be an isolation bay in every school. So if we have exhausted all opportunities to create one within the school, then a makeshift isolation bay can be built.
Okay, ma. So Mrs. Allison, we answered her question, but she said we didn't answer it enough. She wants to know, at what point is the school awarded the certificate of clearance?
I think
she said, I know about individuals and staff award.
At what point, I mentioned it just now, the certificate of clearance comes after you have submitted everything for clearance. It has been evaluated. The evaluators come for field visit and visit your school, and you have met all requirements and you have passed. That is when your certificate of clearance will be issued to your school. So you need to finish the training. You need to upload your certificate and the 4 plans. They need to review, or you will review your plans. The evaluators will come to your school and do the evaluation and inspection, and then they grade you that you have met all of the requirements. That is when your school will be issued the clearance certificate.
Okay, thank you, ma, for that.
And
so
now,
Mr.
the question is also asking is it that they, I mean, you are not going to close down while this whole process is going on. You're still going to be in school, but you wouldn't have a safe to learn clearance, that you are not COVID-19 cleared as a safe school. So the clearance means that you have been cleared as a COVID-19 safe school, you have met all of the COVID-19 protocols, and you have been graded as safe to learn.
Okay, ma'am. Mr. Azan wants to know, going by the similarities in the symptom of some kind of malaria and COVID-19, at what point do we need to get the attention of the COVID-19 team so that one will not be raising unnecessary alarm? Hello, ma'am.
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, did you get the question?
No, I didn't.
Okay. So, Mr. Okay, let me just see through. He was asking, he wanted to know at what point would they need to call the COVID-19 team, since there are some kind of similarities between malaria and COVID-19 symptom, in order not to raise unnecessary alarm.
So the first thing is that, let me start with the last two words, unnecessary alarm. As the school, the protocol for dealing with suspected cases is not for you to alarm. Somebody has malaria or symptoms of COVID. Oh yeah, and you are causing. It's supposed to be discreet. It's supposed to, you need to be able to handle it with, it's not about raising alarm. So the first thing is the same way somebody that is ill will have just walked into the sick bay. This is, or the healing bay, like we call it. We need to be able to ensure that this is not done raising alarm all over the school. Now, from Ministry of Health, from the training that they have provided, they have said that it is better to be safe than sorry. Once temperature is high, once they have demonstrated cases of, symptoms of COVID-19, they should move to the isolation bay and they should be notified. Now, that's one of the reasons why they've also said, so in private schools, one of the rules or the protocol is that if you are ill and it has symptoms of COVID-19, don't bother coming to school. If the symptoms are now showing in school, because normally if your temperature is higher than 37, you're not supposed to even enter the door of the school. So this kind of cases we're talking about is that this temperature started after they had come into the school and their temperature was not high as at the time they were entering the school in the morning. Otherwise, the child should have remained home and not come to school. But if that happens in school and it resembles malaria symptoms or whatever, they should move to isolation room immediately and it should be addressed once they are symptoms of COVID-19.
Okay, ma. Thank you for that, ma. Please, ma, don't forget to give us a list of what are expected to be in the isolation room.
Okay, so the isolation room is not supposed to be like I mentioned, the same way as the isolation center from Lagos. What it needs to do is resemble what you have in your healing bay or sick bay. It should be comfortable enough. It is not a prison yard for you to keep people that have a disease. No, it's a space that should be comfortable. It should have adequate PPE. It should have a sanitation station. It should have the person that would man the place also having PPE. So it's not a permanent place. It's not a permanent position for somebody to just sit there morning till night. But if there is an incident, there should be someone that should be able to stay with the student or whoever is being suspected. Everybody properly kitted with their PPE. So it's almost like a sick bay, but it is a place where they can just stay before they are evacuated. And of course, you must ensure adequate PPE and proper cleaning of the place every single time any incident is there. And also, even without incidences, that place must be properly cleaned all the time. One thing I forgot to mention is that PPE for our cleaners must include hand gloves. So, they can't be doing this kind of risky work with their hands, and they are not properly protected. So all cleaners must wear gloves as they are doing the cleaning and ensuring that everywhere is properly sanitized.
Thank you, ma, for that. Mr. Badejo or Mrs. Badejo would like to know, with this training now, if we have registered and unable to do the training, can't this training qualify we that attended to be cleared for certificates? Thanks and well done for the good job. She wants to know if this training, this Zoom training can qualify her for taking the online course.
go and do the online training. You need to do the assessment online, get the certificates, and upload it along with the 4 plans of the school. This does not replace anything.
Thanks for the clarity, ma'am. So, is it proper for a school to be closing by 4 p.m. in this COVID-19 era?
This is, COVID-19 is not a morning, afternoon, or evening virus. It is every day and everywhere. If staggered learning requires that, in some countries, schools open in the afternoon for a segment of students. So 4 o'clock, when I was in secondary school, I closed at 4 o'clock, normally, even when COVID-19 wasn't existing. So it is what works for your school. What do we need to do to ensure that all children are learning? If it requires staggered learning and it pushes the closing time to 4 o'clock, well, once you have put it in your plan and it is approved, then that's what we have to work with. It is not a permanent situation. It's a situation that we're in right now that we have to do to cope with the current situation we have found ourselves right now. So it is not about, is it safe to be open till 4 o'clock in the COVID-19 period? COVID-19 in the middle of the night, morning, afternoon, evening, it's as long as there are droplets, it's everywhere. So, but what we need to ensure is that we're allowing our children to learn. And if that requires that we extend closing period, once we get the approval, it's what we need to do.
Okay, thank you, ma. Somebody said, give us the list of what are expected to be in the isolation room. Please, ma, don't forget to give us the list of what are expected to be in the isolation room.
So it's not a list. You are not supposed to apply medication to anybody, drugs or anything. You are not required to do anything. It's just a place where it's a holding room where you are keeping the person before they are evacuated. What you need to do is to ensure that the place is comfortable for the person to sit or lay down, and then you have the PPE there, you have the sanitation station available, and that's it. That's the core thing. But what we would do is we'll get, please, OEQA team, if there is a specific list, there is no specific list like you must have, the way you have sick bay, you must have first aid box. Not a lot should be there. It's like I said, a holding room. If you follow the protocols that says that you must evacuate within 1 hour, you don't expect there to have plenty things. You're not allowed to apply any form of medication. So you don't need a first aid box. You don't need anything in there. What you just need is that space comfortable enough with enough equipment, personal protective equipment to keep people safe that are in there so that there are no infections while they are in the holding room. Isolation.
Thank you, ma, for that. Okay, you answered. Somebody was asking what is PPE, and you just said it. That's personal protective equipment. Somebody asked what PPE.
So personal protective equipment means our face mask, our shields, our gloves, anything that protects us from the virus, which is things that they've advised us to do. That's
okay. So that is it the same as PPE?
Yes, that's PPE. Yes.
Okay, that's been answered. So, ma, the staggered arrangement in some public school of 500 students per stream of 14 classroom will not be adequate for this purpose. How do we do it?
Put your situation in your plans and then escalate it to your tutor general or the person above you, and then we will deal with your school as your own particular school based on its uniqueness. Let us see why you say that it's not possible or it's not realistic or whatever. We will then deal with it on a case-by-case basis.
Okay, thank you, ma. Mr. Wasilat, please, my school is registered twice because the code was not sent. So which of them can we use? Re-Oeqa Community Junior High School. I'll advise he contact support at OEQA Lagos or the numbers in the chat box, and then they can tell you which email was captured.
Your inbox. You need to go and check everywhere in your email address. So your mail. So you want to check all of those places, check your junk, check your spam, check your promotions. I'm sure the email will be there. So pick the one, because for you to have registered twice, it means that you register with 2 different email addresses, because it won't allow you to register with the same address twice. So pick the one that has the email address that you really want to register with, and use that code to continue your training.
Okay. An anonymous attendee said, please, I want to be sure if it's compulsory for all teachers to generate the certificate.
We see, so this thing is not about I have certificates, we're talking about the safety of our schools. We have said all teachers to go through the training because we want them to be able to have an understanding of what they need to do for the school to be COVID-19 compliant. Everybody deserves their certificates. Let them generate their certificates and keep it. But for the purpose of clearance, we only need you to upload 4 certificates, the one for the school and for 3 management staff or teachers. Those are the ones you need for clearance purposes. But those that have done their training, they deserve their certificate. They should generate their certificate and keep it, that they have it. So, but for clearance purpose, we did not ask you to bring all of the certificates of your teachers and upload everything. No, we said just 3 of the management staff and teachers and 1 for the school, making 4 in total.
Okay, thank you, Ma. So I think generally we've answered most questions from the Q&A session, from what most
yes,
people
and
were
if you have
asking.
any technical issues, please, take the numbers from the chat room of all the helpline, the support center for OEQA. They would work with you to solve your technical issues if you continue to have issues. But I'm sure that if you follow the procedure that we provided, you'll be able to navigate through the whole requirements and complete the course and request for clearance. So I think one other question that wasn't addressed was that this extension is for school registration. So the extension DG has approved till Wednesday is for you to register your school. The deadline for requesting for clearance, which means you should upload your certificate and upload your 4 plans, is 15th of December. 15th December is the deadline for requesting clearance. So if you register your school before Wednesday, so if you haven't registered now, you can register your school before Wednesday. You have that extension. Then you can proceed to complete your course, do your plans, and upload before December 15th. That is the deadline for requesting clearance.
That will be all the questions, Ma.
All right. So on that note, I would like to say thank you very much. We have spent a very long time today doing this, and I hope we all enjoyed it and we got value for our time spent. I hope I've been able to provide enough information for us to be able to go and do the right thing, get our schools registered, do the training, work on our plans, and request for clearance. Again, my name is Mrs. Olariwaju Oniton, and for all the questions that we couldn't fully answer, and we said we would address it, we would try to make sure that we pass on the message to you. All the documents the DG said that they will try and get across to you, OEQA team will work on it to ensure that that is provided for you. God bless you all. I wish you a great weekend. And like the DG said, we will try, OEQA will try to ensure more trainings come our way like this. Yeah, thank you so much again for coming and for spending such a long time with us. I don't know if someone from OEQA would like to give us like a closing remark or